The Dynasty Podcast is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects. You were warned. The Dynasty Podcast is brought to you by Jumbo Donuts. Get a delicious blueberry muffin, bacon and cheese sandwich, or the Jumbo Donuts world-famous chocolate-covered donut. Don't be a fool. Start the day off right at your local Jumbo Donuts.
It's time to play the music. It's time to light the lights. It's time to meet the assholes on the Dynasty tonight. That's right. It's time to put on makeup. It's time to dress up right. It's time to raise the curtain on the Dynasty tonight. Why do we always come here? I guess we'll never know. It's like some kind of torture to have to watch the show. And now let's get things started. Why don't you get things started? It's time to get things started on the most sensational, inspirational, celebrational, sexuational. This is what we call the Dynasty Podcast. And now, coming to you live from Riverdale Studios, your host, the one, the only, Eric Costanza!
Yes! Greetings and salutations, my fellow Dynasty coaches. This is Eric Costanza, and this is the first ever Dynasty Podcast. Congratulations. We are in this together. Whether you like it or not, we're all in this together. I'm very excited. I'm very horny, but I'm also very excited. This is the Dynasty Podcast. It has come a long way. We have done a lot of testing with this, countless hours of testing, and now we're here. So I am very thrilled and very happy to bring to you the first podcast in the Dynasty history. And congratulations, because you are all part of this together, and we're all popping our podcast cherries here, all simultaneously. So thank you. Now, I would like to warn everybody that I've never done any of this podcasting before. I am not a podcast professional. This is going to be amateur hour. This is definitely going to be amateur hour. Probably comes to no surprise considering the raw amateur aspects that we have to the league. I mean, we use paintbrush for the main application when it comes to our beautiful portraits. So I would like to let everybody just full disclosure here that we are going to be working with amateur equipment, so bear with us during this. And I'd like to talk about how the Dynasty Podcast is going to work. What's going to happen is that I will likely be recording the podcast on either Tuesday or Wednesday, and then it will be sent to the league on either Thursday or Friday. Now, the length of the podcast is going to probably be somewhere around 20 minutes. Maybe 17 minutes and maybe 27 minutes. I don't know for sure, and I don't care. I'm not going to be constrained to a time limit. God damn it. However long it takes is however long it will be. Now, you can listen to it if you want. You can not listen to it. You can listen to some of it. You can do whatever the hell you goddamn please. It's pretty much just like all the other aspects to the league. Whatever you want to do is up to you. You will not be warned. You will not get a violation. You will not lose a draft pick. There will be no penalties for not listening to the podcast. I've said this before. I'll say it now. I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. It's basically all about having fun here. And if you're not having fun in the Dynasty, it's your fault, because there are so many ways of having fun, and it's just a matter of joining in. So jump aboard and get on the train, because we're in for one hell of a ride. So, let's continue here. I would like to thank Coach Jeff Gard for the producing of said podcast. He put in a lot of time in the production of this, and I would also like to thank both Jeff and Coach Johnny C. For helping me lay down some friggin' kick-ass lyrics to a bunch of the podcast jingles, which you will hear. Now, I have said this before. I said this at the draft. Again, I will say it here, that I honestly feel that the Dynasty is the greatest fantasy football league in the world. I challenge anybody to state that it's not, and to prove it, because you can't. You cannot do it. We have great coaches. We have a great setup. We have a great system, a great pass. We have excellent creativeness. We're innovative, and the interactive features are basically second to none. We're as interactive as we've ever been. Just this past week, the league poll that's currently up on the league site, for the first time, I believe ever, we had all 12 teams vote. And on another note, we had 11 of the 12 teams submit pick'em votes last week in week 1. So the Dynasty is in an excellent place, and it's only heading up. Now, I'd like to break down what's going to happen here in this first ever podcast. We're going to have several segments. We're going to look at last week's results and talk about that. We're going to dip a little bit into the power rankings and see how the Power Rankings Association ranked the teams coming out of week 1. And we're going to look at next week's matchups. And then lastly, we're going to have a special coach guest interview. So, with that being said, I think I've rambled on enough here. I'd like to get into our first segment. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at last week's results.
Now let's take a look into last week's results. Who kicked some ass? Who sucked?
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
Now, before we actually take a gander at last week's results, I would like to point out a very interesting statistic. It was relayed via the Power Rankings article, but I find it intriguing, and I'd like to just kind of mention it here. Of the past 7 Dynasty champions, all of which won Week 1. Bang! Think about that. Sit on it for a second. Stew around in that shit for a little while. Why don't you think about it for a second? Take a moment and think about that. The last, or all 7 champions of our past, all won Week 1. That's pretty interesting shit right there. Pretty interesting shit. Now I apologize. I'm a little excited. This is my first podcast, and I'm a little horny, as I said earlier. But now I'm not going to go ahead. I'm not going to break down and analyze every single matchup and talk about every player and what happened. I think, if you want to know that, you can look at the Power Rankings article. You can take a look into the game cast and look at all that. I'm just going to kind of on a high level mention what occurred in the games, and we'll kind of go from there. Now, the first matchup was Scoopers beat Heritage Park Hunters. I mean, obviously, I'm going to beat the Hunters. I beat them 4 times in a row. It's not that hard. He is only the Hunters. It was a pretty tough game, honestly, though. I was a little worried going into the Monday night game. I needed Aaron Hernandez to score me 2 points, and he did. He did it for me, and he got me the first win, and I was happy about that. Handy Quacks, our reigning champion, he beat Yellow Peril. Obviously, Peril's not going to get his first win ever against Handy Quack.